met up at a Shell station, our typical meetup spot. It's about 7:30ish, 8 o'clock. We were going to ride up to Hato. I've ridden this road several times over. Came up around a corner. I could see the yellow light off the reflection of the buildings, so I was slowing down. I tapped my brakes. I looked in my rear view, and I look up and I see the taxi, and the taxi was making a U-turn in the middle of the street. I think what was going through my mind at the time was, this is it. I T-boned the taxi driver. When I T-boned him, I think the accident report said I flew 50.6 something feet from the point of impact. I remember waking up down the street, and I woke up to a guy that, Scott Bennett. He's an airman. He was holding my left hand. He told me to be still, try to keep me calm. And I think the only thing that kind of kept me from going into shock was focusing on him and talking to him. The EMS team, they took me directly to the Chubu Hospital, which is where I stayed for 3 days, being stabilized, blood transfusions, lots of internal surgery. I had a lot of internal damage because of how I landed. I landed on the edge of the curb. Once they stabilized me, then I was transported to U.S. Naval Hospital, where I spent maybe 24 hours before I got on a plane to go to Balboa. The worst journey I've ever had in my life. So when they wheeled me into Balboa, I was in so much pain from the plane ride and the jet lag and everything. I was yelling at the top of my lungs to the nurses that I wanted them to just let me die. I left Balboa and went to an acute rehab facility in Paradise Valley Hospital. And I took my first steps 3 days after the surgery to pull the pins out of my pelvis. Taking those first steps, I felt rebellious. It felt like, well, if I can do this, there's no stopping me now. I can definitely do whatever it is that I need to do to get back to full duty. The doctors were very upset with me. There's a 95% chance that I'm gonna have chronic pain in my pelvis for the rest of my life. And they were trying to mitigate that as much as they possibly can. But from my perspective, I'm gonna have the chronic pain whether I walk now or walk later. I spent, I'd say, about 3.5 weeks in that rehab facility, and every day, intensively, doing some type of therapy, whether it be physical therapy, occupational therapy, emotional therapy. I checked into the Wounded Warrior Battalion August 13th, got on a plane on the 30th of October to come back to Okinawa, Japan. I stayed on limited duty for one period, so April 24th is when I came off of limited duty. April was a significant month because it's when they were expecting me to come out of the wheelchair device back to full duty. I know this is gonna sound crazy. There's nothing that I'm scared to do now. I got back on a motorcycle and I rode that same route in December. And before I passed that route, I turned my hazard lights on and gave that whole area the middle finger. It's like, you thought you had me. Nice try. It's like I absolutely just despise when somebody tells me what they can't do or what I can't do, not knowing that words have effects. Every fabric of me despises negative thoughts like that. You are only going to be able to do what you say you can or can't do. Because if you say you can't do it, guess what? You can't do it. If you say you can, you can.